everyone, welcome back. Today, obviously, we're in a different setting. I have my plant and a plain ass wall because my bookshelves are being moved and I don't have them with me. So today, I just wanted to do a bit of a really just casual June wrap up, July TBR. I've done these in the past, but obviously I've had a proper setup. But today I'm just sitting on my kitchen floor. So grab a cuppa, grab your dog, ignore the bird noises, and let's jump right in. The first thing that I want to chat about is the audiobook that I finished in June, and that is Dragonfly Anemo by Diana Gabaldon. This is the second book in the Outlander series. If you don't know Outlander, it is a story about a woman named Claire who is on her honeymoon in Scotland, and she gets sent through some magic stones to 200 years prior to the time at which Scotland was going through the Battle of Culloden, etc, etc. This is a historical fiction romance type series. There's like war and politics and love. There is a show on Netflix, and I will say that the show follows the books really well. I have watched the first 2 seasons of this, and they followed the book so closely that it was actually really hard to read the book. So I read Outlander quite a while ago, and it's been a while since I've picked up the series. So I listened to this on an audiobook, and it was like something like 38 hours. It was really, really long. This book was basically just the politics of the war, which, I mean, fair enough, it was gonna happen, but like, I'm not a politics person. I don't like politics. I didn't like it in the show, and I didn't like it in the book. So I struggled through this book quite a fair bit. It was very long, but I did find that when it jumps from different time periods to different time periods, I did always find myself longing for the other time period as opposed to the one that we were in, which is something that I had consistent with the show as well. So that's nothing new. So I really, yeah, this was an okay book, and I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I completed in June was Blue Lily Lily Blue. This is the 3rd book in the Raven Cycle series. I will say that 15-year-old me would have loved these books way more than what I do right now. Not to say that I didn't like them, but I think that it is very aimed at that young adult type audience, which granted I still am, but nowhere near as much as I was back in the day. The Raven Cycle series is a series that follows a girl named Blue Sargent. Her mum and her family are all psychics, and she is not psychic at all. She goes to a school full of really preppy kids, and she really doesn't like a lot of them, but she falls into the crowd of the Raven Boys, and they go on all of these journeys, basically. This book particularly was my favourite one in the series. I loved this book just in general. There are so many things in this book. The pacing was really good. You were hooked from the start. It's over a really short time period. There was always things happening. I could keep up with the characters a lot better. I think maybe because I knew them and it was all kind of already established that was really good. But I just found this book way more enjoyable than any of the other ones. And it's quite a bit shorter, so it didn't take me very long to get through. But all in all, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in June was a book that I loved. This book will probably be in my top 5, top 10 of the year. Like, this book was so good. And it's Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. If you've seen the Studio Ghibli movie and you love the Studio Ghibli movie, you will love this book. Considering it's a Ghibli adaptation of the book, I think this was really, really good. I think that they follow each other quite closely. Obviously, they're not exactly the same, and there's events that happen in the movie that don't happen in the book, and there's events that happen in the book that don't happen in the movie. But I loved this book. It goes into the characters' stories so much more. You learn so much more about like Sophie's family, the Witch of the Ways. You don't really learn too much more about Calcifer, but he's still probably my favourite character. This was a phenomenal book. It was so whimsical. The characters are still so rich. The story was really lovely to follow. I love this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I think that if you like the movie, you should definitely read the book. And just to, you know, throw my previous TBR video like down the drain, I strayed so far from my planned TBR this month. I was meant to start A Darker Shade of Magic and read books that I didn't already have on my shelf, but I bought The Raven King, and I finished The Raven King, and then I finished the Raven Cycle series. I was really into it from the start. I think it's because I was running off the high of number 3, but this book was genuinely scary at the start. If this was like a movie or a TV show, I would have just been like, nah. No, I'm out. There was a few scenes at the start of this book. I would say probably the first half until it's all explained. It was so scary. There were like ghosts and like weird forest magic and like trees that were talking. Like, it was so confusing and scary, but it was very good. I did really, really enjoy this book. It was a perfect kind of ending to this series. You get answers that were thrown at you from like the first book. There were some downfalls, like there was a pairing arc in this book that I feel like was kind of just thrown in there and it didn't really get explained. That could be because I may not have been paying as much attention as I should have to the series because I wasn't that into it at the start and I may have just missed all of those cues. I'm so there for it, but I just feel like it wasn't explained enough or it wasn't rich enough. And then there was another character that was at the end. It was just like, where did you come from? Like, you weren't a character. And then all of a sudden they were like a major character, which kind of explains it and it was kind of obvious at the end, but like still it was just, who are you? So in spirit of ending the series on probably a good note, I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars, which leads me into my TBR for July. I was planning on doing an entire reread of a series in July, however I'm no longer doing that because I'm finishing off the books that I was supposed to have read in June. So I'll start with audiobooks and the things that I'm currently listening to or reading. So the audiobook that I'm currently listening to is Voyager by Diana Gabaldon. This is obviously number 3 in the series. Now, so I thought that this one was like a struggle and like, it was like, yeah, it's really thick. And because obviously I wasn't super into the series, I was like, it's okay. The third one's a lot shorter, like it won't take as long to get through because like obviously look at the size difference between the second one and the third one, it's like pretty significant. But no, this one's 10 hours longer than this one. I'm in for 48 hours of listening to this book. I haven't seen this series or season in the TV show though, so this will be all new content for me. I'm hoping that I'm actually enjoying it and I'm invested in it. And I think that once I finish this book, I actually may just keep watching the series rather than reading it because they are quite dense and they're quite hard to get through. And it's just so much easier when you can just watch it all unfurl. But again, obviously this is the third book in the series. I'm not going to explain anything because it will spoil things from books 1 and 2. If you don't want to read this series, just as an aside, you should just watch the TV show. It's pretty much the same thing. So I'm hoping I probably won't get through all of this in July, but I will try my very hardest. And the physical books that I'm reading, and yes, I said books because there are 2 and that's not typical for me. Normally I'll only do 1 audiobook and 1 book at a time. However, my plans have changed. As predicted, I have started my June TBR in July, so I'm reading The Book Thief at the moment. I am only probably about 60 pages in. I'm finding it a bit tricky to get into and I'm like a bit confused by some of the stuff that's happening, but I think that I'm going to really like this, and everyone that I've been around when I've been reading it, they say that they love it, so we'll see how we go. And I've also started rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, I was supposed to be doing a reread of the Throne of Glass series, which I'm still doing. However, my friend and I are doing like a buddy read of this series because we just need a bit of resand in our life, and it's just I just need it. I just need to have that little bit, and unfortunately we do need to suffer the Tamlin storylines to get to the resand storylines, but it is what it is and I'm just gonna do it. So yes, I'm rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses at the same time as rereading A Throne of Glass, which is not going to be at all confusing. A Court of Thorns and Roses, if you haven't read it, I'm sure I've explained it before, but kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so it's similar vibes to that, but it is a phenomenal series. If you haven't read it, if you haven't heard of it, you've probably been living under a rock, and that's okay. Now you can come out and read this series because it's great. After I finish those 2 books, I will start A Dark Shade of Magic, finally. I feel like I need like a little bit of a break between the Sarah J Maas rereads, so I'm going to read this one before I jump into Crown of Midnight, which is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. Obviously, I'm not going to explain the first one, as previously stated, spoilers. But again, this series, young adult, follows a girl named Selena. She is an assassin. In the previous book, she went through a competition for champions. Genuinely can't remember what this book is about, so this is why we're rereading it before I try to finish the rest of the series. A Dark Shade of Magic, sorry, jumping back to this one. The only thing I know about this series is that there are 3 different types of London. I think that they're red, black, and white, and they somehow interlock, and there's someone who can jump between them, and that's about as much as I know about this series. But again, everyone loves it, everyone hypes it, and so I'm pretty keen to jump into it. As usual, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!